Electricity Minister, Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, says generation capacity continues to improve. He says the return of units at the Kusile power station is crucial to reducing the intensity of load shedding.
The Kusile Unit 3, one of the 3 units is now producing, is giving us the megawatts. Now, as I speak to you, is giving us 550 megawatts, and will continue to ramp it up so that we get to anything 712 megawatts up to 800 megawatts. So I'm really excited to indicate that now we're beginning to turn the corner. In this instance, turning the corner simply means that we have that additional generating capacity. We are bringing back those 3 units, and then, of course, in keeping with the last briefing, we will be retaining the other unit during the course of October.
All right, so let's try and make sense of what this means for you and me. Bringing our guest, Hügo Krüger, who's a civil engineer with Truth and Energy, and joins us via our video link this morning. It's lovely to see you as always, Hügo. Thanks very much indeed for making time. So there you heard the Minister mentioning that currently we're getting about 550 odd megawatts from Unit 3 at Kusile. That's just come back online. At full potential or full capacity, it can give us as much as 800 megawatts. How far do you reckon this will go?
I'm actually optimistic. I said this last time I was on here. There's 2 keys for South Africa to ending load shedding. One is Kuiberg, which is 1 unit, and one is Kusile. Now, the question we've all had for a very long time is how shady was the engineering at Kusile? And if what the Minister says is true, South Africans can take a little bit of relief of this. I still suspect we will have stage 1 and 2 load shedding up and down next year, given the high variance in the system. But these are signs of this is good news coming, and if Eskom delivers, well done to them.
It's one thing to have the units back online. It's another to keep them online, which was yet another issue, right? It's just how quickly there's a variance. That's the word you've just used now. How confident are you on that score?
Well, if you look at Medupi, which is the same design or similar design to Kusile, Medupi actually is performing quite well after it had all its hiccups. So I am reasonably confident. But look, your guess is as good as mine. I can't really tell you a straight answer on that. I would say I'm skeptical if you can run it at full capacity yet. So the Minister said he's going to ramp it up, and he wants to run it at 800. Remember, it's election year coming,
right.
And Sputla wants to stake his political career on fixing Eskom. So if he does that, well done to him. But I'm a bit skeptical if you're going to get full capacity. So I don't think we'll be out of stage 1 and 2 load shedding even next year.
Yeah, that's why we bring the likes of yourselves, you see, after Sputla speaks to hopefully balance things out for us. But part of what he also spoke about is unplanned load reductions and taking calculated risks, right? And I suppose that speaks to the idea of planned maintenance, which in some ways also contributes to load shedding. Are we striking the right balance insofar as that is concerned?
Not yet. So in terms of plant maintenance, Eskom has had that for a long time in right balance. Remember, South Africa has 50 gigawatt, 55,000 megawatts. So they've got 5 gigawatt on routine maintenance. More or less, they've got that 5.5. So ideally, you can reduce that a bit, but I'm giving Eskom some slack for that. The issue they have still is, and the CEO of Eskom said this week, that there's 14,500 or 14.5 gigawatt of electricity or of units that is still on what they call unplanned capacity loss factor. Now, they're targeting 14.5. Now, the question I've got for them is, why are you targeting 14.5? Why aren't you targeting 0? Because if we target 0, we not only end load shedding, we also achieve economic growth. So Eskom's ambitions are too low.
Absolutely. And I suppose that's also yet another part that we yet to unpack, right? The economic toll that this has all taken. I mean, depending on who you ask, people will give you different matrices of just how much this is actually costing us. I mean, do you reckon we're any closer to quantifying this?
I can quantify it in terms of future economic growth because I actually crunched numbers the other day. South Africa, to be on par with other emerging markets and to solve our unemployment problem, needs about a 5% economic growth. When we had, so to end load shedding, we needed about 6 gigawatt. Now we need about 2, thanks to Kusile coming online. And then on top of that, you need another maybe 6 to 7 gigawatt of electricity. Okay, so Eskom has to fix those units to get economic growth so we can be on par with other emerging markets. But it predicates on another assumption, which I need to stress here, the availability of water. South Africa is water shedding and load shedding at the moment because the water infrastructure is also not being maintained. And you can actually solve both of them together with desalination. So if we are smart about how we exit load shedding, we can achieve economic growth. But if we're only going to fix the electricity problem but not the rest of the infrastructure, and I see Transnet's also in a problem that I can talk about, we're going to have trouble as well. So I would like for government to come to terms with that key word, maintenance. Maintenance is not something that we don't do, that we do because we like playing around. It's critical to keep the economy going.
Absolutely. You speak about Transnet. It's actually on the front page of the Business Day, which we'll unpack in just a moment. I mean, a serious leadership. Can we call it a crisis already? I mean, is that overstating it? Which is not ideal in a context where we know how important Eskom and Transnet are for our economic prospects, right? Many people across a number of sectors continuing to count the cost of these two crucial SOEs not operating the way they should.
Yes, so South Africa has to come to terms. Eskom is part of the greater geopolitical economy in South Africa, and this has never been communicated to the South African public. The apartheid regime would not have achieved economic growth without Eskom. It was a strategy from Hendrik van der Bijl from the time onwards, and we had Transnet supplying railway to the mines. So these are critical for the economy to function. Without them, we don't have economic growth. And take into account, Johannesburg developed around the mines. So if you don't have infrastructure serving this, which is high electricity for intensive growth, and railway to get it to the port cities, the entire economy collapses. Okay, this is how critical these things is. I can't overstretch it. So, and what is missing in government, and actually with Sputla, we've seen for the first time that I can remember something extraordinary. Somebody that's actually a civil engineer running an institution that requires civil engineering expertise. Right? So we need competent people there. I don't care if they're a little bit politically involved, because you can't avoid that to some extent. But you need people with qualifications in those positions to make the key decisions. Because look what happened. We put a minister of electricity that has an engineering degree in charge, and all of a sudden Eskom goes into a little bit of a better direction. Isn't that shocking?
Sure, yeah. Sometimes the obvious things aren't so obvious, some people might say. You also mentioned desalination as a possible solution to our water and electricity woes. And for those people who don't know, that's essentially the process of extracting salt from water. But help us understand how this could provide a solution to both these very important challenges.
So South Africa, as I said, ran out of water in around 2008 for industrial purposes. We still have drinking water. The way it works, if you take a map of South Africa, is that our rivers are draining down our inland water, and we also have a massive sewage problem in South Africa. So you need to solve that, and desalination can solve sewage, can be used for that, and it can provide water to our coastal cities, and you can attach it to nuclear power if you build it at the coast, which I'm an advocate for. And then you can solve the electricity and the water crisis in the same place. Kuiberg, for example, is a desalination plant, right? So the idea is our coastal cities try and desalinate, so therefore our inland river have more water to recover. But you can also use desalination technology next to the mines, and it can solve some of the wastewater that goes into that area as well. Sewage is a major crisis in South Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. How energy dependent is the process of desalination, though?
Well, if you, not a lot, not as much as people claim it is, because when you burn water, when you generate electricity, you lose 2/3 of your energy in the process. And you can use that rejected heat for desalination, which is what Kuiberg is doing. So it's actually going to drive down the cost of electricity if you do it properly. And you can do it with the coal fleet as well.
Yeah.
So you don't need to add extra capacity for it. In some cases you do, but that's just a price you have to pay for it.
Absolutely. All right. That's considering, of course, everything else stays constant, right? There's a term in economics around that as well. So once again, Eskom heading in the right direction with the return of this unit. And I think it shouldn't be lost to us that this is ahead of schedule. Hopefully, if Eskom keeps up this momentum, we can start predicting when we could see the back of load shedding. Are you brave enough to do that yet?
Yeah, well, I just want to correct you. It's ahead of schedule because they're not fixing the desulfurization process at Kusile as well. So they're bypassing a process. Now they say it's ahead of schedule. Okay, great. That can work. But I am still confident. I'm confident that Eskom's... look, I'm giving them confidence. I'm an optimist, General. But I would say for the next year, even with election year, South Africa will still have load shedding. Although I suspect in the months up to the election year, Eskom will burn extra diesel to make sure people don't vote for the other party, something of that sort. But generally speaking, I'm optimistic, although I would still make the statement, I think load shedding is still going to take another 2 years if we continue with this trajectory.
All right, Hügo Krüger, as always, great speaking to you. Thanks for your insights this Monday morning.